Hello everybody, welcome back to the workshop. So today we're going to go ahead and finish up our daffodil sculpture. What we're going to be working on today is the base, or the final part, and then we're going to be assembling everything to the base, and this will complete our sculpture. So here I'm just giving you some general dimensions. It's essentially 5.5 inches square. And we're going to have to trim a little bit off, but that's okay. And yeah, we'll get to it here in just a second. So this here is what we're looking to go for. Now the one that I'm going to be forging is actually going to become a bowl in a different type of video, but I just wanted, it's the same process just with the beveling on the outside of the bowl versus the inside. But this is how we achieve that beveling. I just used an angle grinder with a flat disc. This is a 4.5 inch angle grinder, and I'm using a 60 grit disc for this. You want this to be fairly smooth. You don't want to do too coarse a grit because we're going to end up polishing up these edges later. This is an interesting way of taking and adding some extra dimension to what otherwise would just be a flat plate. Now the reason for you wanting to do this is sometimes a forged finish is not what you want. You don't want texturing on the edges when you're doing something a little bit more modern when it comes to forging, or contemporary, I guess they call it, modern contemporary. So you just want to take and, do really clean lines in that kind of case. And that's what I was shooting for here. Plus I wanted a really good contrast between the flat of the steel and the bevels, as you can see here. And they're coming along pretty good. So this is a bit boring, but essentially you just keep it, keep it all the same bevel, all the same angle, until you get it an even width across the flat. Next step, we're just going to go ahead and throw her in the gas forge here. I get asked all the time which one I prefer, gas forge or coal forge. And this is where I really prefer a gas forge, is heating large sections of plate, because I can just get a much more even heat across the board. So now, this is the part that you would see in a bowl, in a steel bowl video. I'm hammering it into the block just mainly to show you how we form this after this is done. But as you can clearly see, the bevel is on the inside of the bowl here. And for the base, we want those bevels on the outside of the bowl. So essentially, this would just be flipped upside down and hammered into the block. Very similarly with a wooden mallet, like what you're seeing me do here. As a side note, my wooden mallet ended up breaking shortly after this video here. It ended up blowing a big chunk out of the top of it. It wasn't really good for anything. So we'll have another video on that someday real soon, me making another wooden mallet. But yeah, basic premise here, we want to try to iron out any sort of lumps, any bumps, and leave the surface as smooth as possible. Now, like I said, this is for a bowl video as well. I decided to just use the footage over again to show, it was good enough to show the same process since I already had the base made. So now I'm doing a little bit of cleanup, and I'm starting to figure out where my leaves need to be. Now these are going to be 3 leaves, and you don't want them to just come straight out of the piece. You want them to have a little bit of dimension. So you can't really see it in this clip here, but they're kind of in a crown shape, like what you can see there. And that's kind of how that's going to get fed up. I should mention that I drilled holes into the base, and that's so this way they can be plug welded from the bottom. And now we're going to shape the actual leaves themselves that we've been working on. Essentially at this point, this is the easiest place to shape these mainly, and then take and compare them to your sculpture and see how they all fit together. Once you know that they all fit nicely together and they look good, then you can go ahead and wire wheel them up and get them welded. So at each step of this process, since this is a small sculpture and you're using forged elements with welded parts, you want to really make sure you take time at each stage to clean up the steel. So clean it up, wire wheel it, grind whatever needs to be ground, make sure there's no welding sputter, this and that, because you don't know if there's going to be a reach issue at a later date to where you won't be able to as easily grind the piece itself. So that's just something to, keep in mind there. And so we get this all welded up, and there's the finished sculpture. It's pretty much all set together. I'm giving it a few little tweaks by hand. And what you see me here doing is I don't want heat rings to form on the top because I've already got the base to the coloration that I want. So that's why I kept wiping it down with a rag. But anyways, that's the finish of this sculpture. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you all for watching it. Don't forget to leave a like. And like I always say, God bless you, and we'll catch you on the next one.